My name is Christiano Can, and I'm here with April Henry, and I don't know what's going to happen, so she's going to talk from here.
We never know what's going to happen. I woke up about an hour ago, so I've had the Schumann resonance playing on my machine downstairs, which has a radius of about, I'm supposed to be in the range of like, ideal range of 3 to 12 feet, and I'm within that range. So I wanted that to affect our vibrations. So that's the first thing I think we should talk about. I find it fascinating as a musician, what the Schumann resonance is. So why don't you give us, yeah.
What do you know it to be as a musician? How does that resonate with you?
Honestly, I don't know. I know very perfunctory amount of information about the Schumann resonance, but I would say that its use and its application is very interesting to me. I think that's what I find the use and application of things far more fascinating than actually sometimes how they work. It depends.
It's not the first time or the last that'll be said about something.
Yeah.
The Schumann resonance is actually the heartbeat of the earth, and it is measured with the level of electromagnetic activity in the ionosphere. And so it's closely associated with lightning storms or power surges, and it's different in different places. It is known to resonate usually at 7.83 hertz, which is, if you are resonating at that frequency, there is a calm associated with that because you are in harmony. Even though there are a lot of frequencies that keep you away from that, that is an ideal resonance for a different type of harmonic vibration. At the same time, it has been increasing. So when you said that you were playing something at the Schumann resonance, I was laughing because it's interesting.
The ideal Schumann resonance, yeah.
Even at that point, that's beneficial. It's just interesting, like kind of how the magnetic north poles are changing. The Schumann resonance is changing. The Earth's frequency or heartbeat is increasing. And based on where I stay right now, I live in a very electromagnetic area by default, which kind of year round is between 8 and 10 hertz. And so it's kind of like the Schumann resonance is increasingly getting closer to 8, which means it gets closer to 10 in the range I'm in. And you can see there are so many lightning storms here, not thunderstorms, just hours upon hours of when the sky is lighting up. And it happens all day. The thing is, you can only see it at night. So yeah, it's just a lot of energy in the air, and that's associated with the Schumann resonance. And there are spikes that are associated with the way people feel different vibrations or energies. Some people get headaches. Some people pop up and they're restless because they can't sleep. This is all different frequencies that interact with different waves, your gamma rays and so forth. So it's a lot going on right now, just in general.
So as a musician, we're musicians. And don't you find it, like, I started reading this book called Becoming Supernatural, which is really interesting. And I mean, it's so, what's amazing is, as a musician, like ever since you're a little child even, and that's where I really geek out on this stuff, is I think we all tap into frequencies as a child. And we have this innocence about us that will just play. And that's why sometimes even the scientific mechanics of things elude me, because I want to be in a constant state of almost childlike mind. So sometimes I'll read things like this and I think, oh, okay, well, what does that feel like? You know, what is that experience like? And how can that make somebody else's experience better? How can that heal me? How can that heal others? And how does that affect us? And lately, I've been thinking a lot about, since you came back into my life and into my world, it's just been so fascinating to read some of what you've been sending my way, and just immersing, allow that to marinate.
Let it marinate.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times people, they steer away from thinking about these things or experiencing them because they're like, oh, I don't understand the mechanics of it. Whereas maybe it's more about just immersing and allowing the mechanics to experience you for a time until you get it.
Take what resonates and discard the rest. And something you just said about being a child. Right now, and in most situations, children come from an entirely different realm. They come from a realm of darkness like a seed into a realm of light and air and all these new things, and have to be taught, or in a way, how to perceive things. And in lesser advantageous situations, they're given ways on how to perceive things. But the most beautiful thing that we try to preserve with the child is that seriousness of them when they play, how serious play is, how beautiful that space of
Mm,
wonder, imagination, and possibility really is. And so right now, with all of the influx of energies and changing and of vibrations, children and empaths are the most sensitive to this new influx of possibilities and frequencies. And
mm,
knowing to just kind of sit back and accept supernatural happenings and
mhm.
supernatural conversations is gonna help this transition, because we're about to see some supernatural phenomenon in many facets of our existences, whether in a dream, daydreaming, breathing, meditating, or just sky phenomenon. I saw fireballs in the sky not too long ago. I saw a Merkaba in the sky not too long ago. Looking up at night could be beneficial to a new acceptance of just some more strange happenings.
Yeah. And so that is, I think, what's really interesting now is, I think, as an empath, when you know you've always kind of been one, or not even kind of, very certainly, you know, you've always been one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I think, a large community of empaths out there and artists. So what would be your, um, I think, advice? Because it's always been a challenge for artists in this realm. And I know your penchant is almost, is very like, um, anti, oh, I won't want to say anti anything, but it's kind of allowing capitalism to be what it is outside of your realm, let's say it that way. It's like, you know, just allowing for that to be something that's not a dominating force in how you approach your life, rather
Mm-hmm.
than saying anti anything. So and as I think that's the way artists and empaths have kind of always, in one way or the other, I've always approached. I never approached things from the capital, like I felt pressure to do so, and I have done it at times. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
all have to make money. So, what would you say, in a very practical sense? Like, what do you think is the transition of where this is all going, in terms of how we're changing everything, in our systems, and in a practical way? Do you see how this is changing our systems, and where do you think this is going for artists?
That's an excellent question. And you partially started to walk into the answer. Right now, with the current world stoppage of movement, I have seen the most amount of projects started from creators, for projects and aspirations that were put on hold because they got lost in the business of music or the business of life. Whether it was they weren't full-time creatives, they were full-time in their mind and maybe in their hopes. A
Mm,
change in certain movements and possibilities forced them to sit with themselves and then take a moment to think of, what do I really want to be doing right now? So they'll pick up
mm,
that instrument that they put down years ago, or take a moment to not rehearse a studio session, but to go in for something that they started. And I'm hearing more players singing and more singers playing. And so
mm,
that's one thing that's evolving as a benefit, because art has always carried and created the bridge through every uh, evolutionary period. It has been the
mhm,
torch the entire way. And
mm,
so the other thing that I'm seeing is that creative ways of getting your message out is changing. Artists are looking for different means, methods. They're more independent live streams, which then jump to, okay, how can this be more creative after everyone went to live streams? And so it's just pushing the boundaries of creativity. And hopefully soon it's going to break away from the desire of how many views can I get and just be how much more can I push the art or the craft. But there is an explosion of possibilities taking place in the creative world based on this purposeful stoppage of movement that is making
Yes.
non-purposeful movements just explode in creative ways.
Oh, I love that. So, and it's so interesting because there are people I know who are actually teaching workshops and making money on teaching workshops about live streaming right now. And so that's of course doing really well, right?
Hmm.
So if you want to look at it in the practical terms of that, but I mean, there's a lot of also free master classes that people are giving if people want to learn the rest on their own too. So there's also a lot of gifting that is happening with that too.
Correct.
And so it's very interesting though what you talked about, followers, you know, about how many people click on something doesn't really matter. What matters is that what is the shared moment, the shared information, and how we can make that exchange, and what is that exchange, and we determine what that the meaningful what is the meaning and commerce of that exchange, right?
The easiest way to explain it is just go live your hobby.
Yeah.
Just live it. It doesn't
Right.
matter if someone picks up this shirt that you're knitting or this painting that you painted or this riff or song that you wrote. It doesn't matter. It's your hobby. And if people take a liking in it or choose to gravitate towards it, even then it doesn't matter because it doesn't take away. It's your hobby and your life. So one of the greatest things I can impart is, hey, go live your hobby, follow your greatest joy, and watch what happens.
So while I have you here and in this place, this is beautiful. What tell me, can you tell me in about 2 minutes? Let's see if we can get it in that intensity. um, in 2 minutes, what has been your journey, your musical journey from birth to now? Like, how would you describe that in 2 minutes? If you had to do like the potato chip test version, the summary.
I take things in and I let things out. And that's really all it's ever been. There are longer periods of pauses where I'm taking things in. Like for so long, I studied comedians of all languages in all genres and time periods and pieces because of what it takes to engage an audience with a story or a short projection of a tale, and to bring them in with pace and purpose and just the true climax, and then walk them into something else, and then to leave the capacity of that there's more than this, come see me again. So I took that in from comedians, Dick Van Dyke, um, uh, Red Sanford, Richard Pryor, um,
Mm.
Jim Carrey did very well. And I mean, there's so many that I can go down. And I actually have this documentary called, well, rockumentary, and it's called Friends, Fans, and Groupies. And it talks
Wow.
about that whole process of just how much I am a student. So as I go through periods, I just take in and let go. So I've been a graphic artist. I've been a painter. I've sculpted. I just in any form of fashion and how I can express an inner urge coming out is what I will take on, learn, and use just in any given moment. So there's no one set way. So my path as I probably go past 2 minutes has been to take in and let out. And so, like, even doing this video, this is a new format in which I'm letting out because I don't talk like this to people for others to see. Even
Mm.
now, I was asked to go to an event, and it's just like I'm just in the zone where I still love myself and the privacy of myself and this spiritual journey and awareness that only I can go through in the most energetic moment of my life right now. So, yeah, I'm
Mm.
enjoying some me time.
Yeah. That's yeah, and I think that's what's really interesting too about this time frame. Everyone, I've been talking to so many people, having so many different Zoom calls, and everyone is enjoying their me time, I think, in a unique way, but also there's others who are not enjoying their me time, but that's really good too, because I think there's a lot of people who have been needing to understand how to enjoy their me time.
It's very important since.
And I think there was a lot of ways personally that I was unable to really access that in a lot of ways, but being me with other people, even on these Zoom calls, has been so healthy. And it's actually fueled my me time because I feel right now while I'm talking to you, I'm fully in my perspective. Because I'm allowed my space. And sometimes when people are in my physical space, I have allowed myself as an empath to be a bit, whereas it's like here, I'm like, I can just take you in a whole new way, Sometimes I do miss the kinetic, sharing, and it can fuel you, and it can just be incredible. So I do miss that.
Okay, I was about to say, don't get too adjusted to this.
Yeah.
Accept this for what it is, the value that you can pull from it. However, we are creatures of touch and connection, and these disconnections aren't purposeful. So if you were purposely going through this expansion, that would be a little different. But this is kind of a benefit from being put in certain containers or distances, whereas like, okay, I value this differently and I see it now, but yeah, this is not what is, should be, and will be. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah, no, because like you said, I'm also coming from a different perspective. I wasn't saying people who are completely alone, because I don't live completely alone. So I'm one of the lucky ones in that way. So as I speak that way, I was speaking to my personal experience for sure. And then I know that there are other people who are completely isolated, who were living alone and feeling that. And I get that, because I couldn't even imagine, completely not having anyone that you can't touch or commune with, like in the physical space. And I have had a lot of that. I've been blessed in many ways that, and I've made a form for people that I trust, that I'm like, okay, what are you? And I can keep my distance from those who I'm like, okay, you're around a lot of people, so if we've got to be careful, then we've got to be careful, and making those. And it's been a lot for everyone to adjust to, for sure. So yeah, and none of us have been perfect, because we've been learning. Like you said, we're taking it in and then figuring out what to release.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's just really interesting that you're in this place of paradise. And like you, at the beginning of this call, before any of this was being recorded, you said something that I've been really connecting with lately, is that the paradise, you said the paradise is within. And I've been having a lot of personal peace lately that I was not having. Okay, let's get real. I was not having it. And I still have a lot of, rage. I can feel it in my kidneys. I have 1,000 years of feminine rage inside me. So I can Hulk out at any moment. Let me be real about that. But that's also, I'm looking at it, for me personally, as marrying that peace with that rage. And the only way for me to look at it, this is just my perspective on it, but is justice. And I think when we see the relevance and the application of justice, spiritual justice, like a justice of connection, and how we need to change all these things, I feel that there is more peace that can be had. And this is the peace we needed all along, that we've been fighting for, that we don't need to fight for. It's just, look, this is what it is, and this is what we need, right? And so it's like, I look at you in paradise over here, and it's just amazing, because it was the place that you were already in your mind. And like you said, tell everyone what you said, because I love what you said.
Paradise is within. What you see or perceive is just an extension of that reality, that acceptance, and that creation of your awareness. Paradise is here. You can sit, you see people that have everything that you think you want. And there's this statement of they have everything and they're not happy. They're not satisfied. They're not complete. And that's because once you find your paradise within, there is nothing that can come or go outside of yourself that can take you away from that paradise. And so
Yeah.
part of this I can relate to. I know when I'm in it and I'm around someone who isn't in their own space is when I'm sitting in my paradise of myself and it's perceived as selfish or self-loving or
Mm.
something else, and or narcissistic even at times. And I'm just kind of like, I get it now. I get the projection. And I'm just like, that's
Mm.
yours. That's not mine. I love myself, which means I can love you through all of what you say and what you do. I can still stand there and love you. So it's just, yeah, paradise is yours and only yours.
Yeah, I love that. It's just, I've been exploring this year has been kind of a year of I am enough, you know, and
More
that,
than enough. We are so much more than we know. And it's coming into awareness through the release and access to information, whether it's to a conscious library that we all have the keys to. The thing is, have access to. The thing is, you have to find the key and then know how to turn it after you find the door. So there is a process towards it, but it's accessible to everyone. In addition to this being the information age, so by default, there's more information. However, with more information comes more discernment because you have to
mm,
find the wisdom and that lies within all of that. So it's a whole process of growth and expansion that is now with us in this age of so many expansions of our physical selves as we start to evolve our DNA and awareness of what is coming and adjustments to it, our energetic awareness as we learn about the food, the sun, and the supplements that can't be synthesized. So, what meditation does, and so forth. And as we learn about spiritual awareness and this whole thing that is truly your most pure and individualistic and powerful journey through this is your spiritual journey, because
mm,
everything else is just a selected reality of it. You choose everything that you're going through and how you perceive it and what you feel and how people do stuff. All that is your choice. It is all based on your reality of this matrix of possibilities. There are billions of possibilities after every possibility. After every
yeah,
millisecond, there's another billion possibilities. So what do you choose?
yeah. And so this is something I find fascinating as well. I've done a lot of trauma work, and what you're talking about right now is, I think, very interesting. And I also want to apply this to children, especially right now, because I think people are walking around traumatized children, all of us, I think, in some degree. And we are so in need of more love, in need of more connection. And I think what happens is, often when we are traumatized as children, we go off into our own world, right? And we need that self-love. That's why we do it, because we know we think we can trust ourselves to love ourselves, and we get to that point of I am enough, right? And then people say, oh, you like, because they don't love themselves enough, and they could never love you enough because they don't love themselves enough, because they're just traumatized children, right? And then they put you, like you said, in that box that you were talking about. It's like, oh, you're narcissistic, or you're that. Whereas you're just trying to enjoy your experience. You're trying to love and share that love and connection with other people, with those who are able and capable. Because if you open, and give to those who you cannot receive the negative parts of that love, because you need to say, I love you, I continue to love you, but I do not receive this part of you that would harm me. And so
So
having those
it's
boundaries.
taking you saying that is very interesting. That I want to jump and touch on a few topics.
Please, yes.
One of them is the word trauma and how it's been or commonly digested as something that is negative or a negatively hidden impact. And I think trauma is any unknown or unresolved impact that affects you in any way. I don't see trauma as good or bad. It's an impactful happenstance that maybe you haven't fully embraced. And so when you say we're all traumatized children, I think that applies if we add that expansive definition to trauma. Because I know people, when they hear the word traumatized, they don't think they were traumatized as children. And I'm like, yeah, of course there were things that happened to you that adversely, greatly,
Birth is
however it
traumatizing.
affected you. Um, I can talk about how my sexual abuses and molestations as a child affected me and how it um, allowed me to like catapult through and become more comfortable with what was, why it happened, what is, and just keep growing. So I embrace them and welcome anyone to look at any of their traumas without looking at them as something negative. Now, yeah, and I'll leave it there. Um, just wanted to touch on
Well,
that. The traumas is something that is quite empowering to know what it is and why you're doing it or what may be causing certain triggers. And even then, there's another awareness that is not really nurtured with humanity, our instincts. Is that
mm,
we have instincts that are activated through sonic vibrations, pheromones, precursor and steps, almost like hypnotism. There are things that affect us that should be made more aware that also feed into our habits, which is what marketers and leaders and behavioralists study, which is kind of what I'm looking at right now is happening to the whole world. This is the biggest behavioral experiment I've ever seen.
oh
So
my
a
God.
lot of
Yes.
people's reactions, a lot of people's reactions are not normal or are exaggerated because they're being purposely catered with different truths, different frequencies, and different options to choose from. It's like you're not even being given a pure range of options and possibilities. You're just being given the next step before the next step because you're under control. So going within and disconnecting from everything that is external allows you to confront your greatest asset, and that is you. So that when anything comes in from the outside, you realize this is not mine. Whoa, why do I feel like this? That's not mine. Okay, it's this phone, it's this movie, it's this song, it's this newscast, it's this conversation, it's this individual, it's this food. Like once you disconnect from everything, it is so enriching to know how subtle the smallest things affect you. So
Yeah.
yeah, empower
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, that's yeah, and so I find it fascinating that it begins like but as I was talking about that, just to recap really quickly and then delve into the direction, but we a lot of people who are overly traumatized, let's say, or
Mm.
traumatized into a negative direction, how to pull it back, they pull it back into themselves, right? But then what we really need is human connection, and because we can't do it by ourselves ultimately. And I think that's one of the things that I love about um, a lot of indigenous communities around the world is that it's all about connecting with the tribe. When something really happens, it's like, or even if a child does something bad, it's like, hey, by the way, this is not who you are. This is who you choose to be. And I think that that's something we need to um, reevaluate in across the world. That's really interesting, and I think that's happening a lot now because we're being forced to be aware of all these things. And I said I think this is going to be, this is just my opinion, I don't know if this is going to be true or not, but I think it's we're going into a place of integrity where integrity is going to have much more value than it ever has before. And
Okay,
I hope that's the truth. But I feel like that could become our closer to our reality.
you just mentioned a word that resonates with me on a high level: integrity. So one,
Mm.
I'm curious as to what your definition is. What does integrity mean to you?
Well, I'm kind of a word nerd, so I love the word integrity as from its core, where it comes from in Latin as well, is um, integral, where things connect, and we are more connected. And so integrity is where things are more, I think, my personal connotation of integrity is as above, so below.
Okay. So
And yeah.
so when I look at that term, I tend to apply it mostly to relationships based on what I know I give to anyone I give my time to. I give you me, pure and usually unhindered, unhinged. And so integrity for me is the space you hold for someone when they are no longer in that space. We had this moment, this was the space we occupied, and that's ours. There's no need to share it, exploit it, expose it, let it be that sacred space that was ours, no matter how it's tested or what you may be going through. Like, the integrity that I hold is I have that space that is ours that I won't ever let any attack or anyone invade, no matter what. So yeah, I that's how I apply it to relationships. And what
Yeah.
is life but a series of thousands of relationships? So yeah, integrity.
Yeah, and integrity, I definitely agree with your definition of that too. It's just it's an expansive word. And so I find that it connects to everything. And relationships are everything ultimately. Like that's what we understand, I think, a lot as human beings. And what I love is I love that the word integrity, as I see it, it can be personally connecting to yourself as well as to others, and it begins with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being true to yourself and understand why you do things and how that connects to others. And my personal integrity has had to be flexible over the course of my life. And so, but I know that that's my destiny, is to be a person of integrity. I'm a number 17. I was born on a 17. So that's, like if you look into numerology, and it's always fascinated me a little bit how those things are. But I don't have to speak about integrity. I just need to live it.
That's it.
And that's what I find to be like, I have had my private life. I have a very private life that nobody knows what goes on in my private life. And for me, some people in this day and age, a lot of people think integrity and authenticity is about sharing all of your personal life on some screen or like on Twitter or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, no, that's kind of actually the opposite of integrity. Because I mean, not to say that that's not part of it, but you don't owe anybody your relationships. You don't owe anybody an explanation for things that belong to you. And that's integrity first to
I
yourself.
ain't asking you to like me. Press repeat.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God, let's talk about this song. Come on, bring it.
All right. So you and I met in Stockholm.
Yes.
By happen chance on an evening out with Simon, who I would love to chat with a bit more as he goes through this coronavirus scare. And we met up later in the studio, me, you, 𝗏𝗡𝗏, Victoria. And me and 𝗏𝗏 were mixing this song and working on some other things from a private treasure chest of musical gems that I'm just starting to share. The last one came out on the October 1st, 2020, which was okay. And that was like a knock on the door. Hey, we're making something a little different. And this full moon, October 31st, comes something that you're a part of called Press Repeat, which basically is saying, I'm me, you're you. I'm gonna be me no matter what. I want you to do the same. And no, I'll never ask you to like me. Press repeat. And yeah, I just really appreciate what you did. You came in and we didn't have the monitor set up a certain way, so your headphones weren't working or something. And it was just like, sing. Like, you can hear it. Just go for it. Just catch the groove. And based on you being a rock star with your vocals, it was like, I think we'll have something to work with. And so it was actually sitting for like months. And me and 𝗏𝗏, we were just reluctant to look at the file because it was just like, man, I know something's good on there, but have you looked yet? And I said, no, I haven't looked yet. Have you? No, man. And then when we start talking about the song and I listened to it before we went into the mixing phase, we both did. It was like, let's see what April did. And so we dug, and we didn't have to dig much because what came out and what you contributed to was an epic share that came out with a large part of my explosion of creation back in 2012. Okay, which came out, was written in 2012 and started the process. Born, which was my first song, was 2012. Okay was 2012. I mean, Press Repeat was 2012. And there's this song, Try More Harder, which is an epic storytelling heart vibration, all done at 432 hertz, that was also done in 2012. So this is a release that started with this alignment of something that is coming out now with the next alignment. So I'm just happy that you were a part of this thing coming and that you vibrate. Like I like your reaction when you first heard it. You like, that's my new theme song.
Okay. Yes.
So yeah, ready to
I
rock
love
and
it.
share that.
So tell me, I think not enough people know about the 432 Hertz movement. So in the event that I share this interview with other people, which I think I'm pretty sure I will,
Yeah.
I think we should talk about 432 Hertz and how that correlates to your mission and what's becoming my mission too, because I've known about 432 Hertz for a while, but I have not made it actionable. And I find it so incredible that you have made this actionable. You made it happen because it needs to happen. And tell us all about it.
It's purposeful. Frequency and vibration are a part of us through and wholeheartedly. We are vibrations. So anything with the vibration affects other vibrations, like two waves in still water. When they hit, they affect each other's direction and projection. And so 432 hertz is a mystic frequency that exists in so many antiquitous structures, and it is the vibration of nature, and pretty much everything around you resonates at 432 hertz. The Earth's vibration being at 7.83 increasing to 8 also is in line with 432 hertz. The square root of the speed of light is 432 hertz. It's that magic number 9. And it is a part of us. And the reason it resonates is because it has less tension just by default of what it is. 440, which is the current standard of sound, which people who think they're musical mavens and are so proud to say, oh, I can tune by ear to 440, not even knowing it's 440. They're just happy that they can tune to ear, are tuned to an unnatural frequency, not knowing it. And it requires more tension. Just to go from 432 to 440, you have to tighten anything that resonates to get more tension. And so more tension in your life means what? It plays louder, which is partially why it was turned up, but it also takes your molecules and your vibration slightly out of tune because the tension is disruptive. And so 432 harmonizes with your lower chakra, your heartbeat, your vocals. Everything will sit more naturally. People will be more inclined to sing along. You can feel yourself hitting notes and holding notes differently. It will just resonate and vibrate because you hit a natural tuning. That's why there's so much auto tune in the current state, is because the computer gets you to a standard tuning that no one really puts the work into getting, and it's become so normal that to not hear auto-tuned on something, or this crystallized sound from the computer and the mixing, people are like, yo, what's going on? I'm missing the pop. And it's like, wow, that is the sound of pop and modern music now. So 432 is a really natural resonance that vibrates with less tension and is soothing and healing. And yes, I have spearheaded and pushed many movements that have affected thousands, probably at this point tens of thousands, if not more, as it echoes out and starts to become more. I'm running into so many people that speak on it that I'm starting to question if it's reached the point of critical mass where enough people know about it that it just boils over and just comes. Because when I share it with people, they hit it so hard that they share it with someone else that by the time I meet that next person, they're like, oh, I heard that from blah blah and so, and I just smile like, whoa, that was fast. This is amazing. But yeah, I'm glad you asked about that.
Yeah. And so what's fascinating is it seems like, okay, if we were to just get really base about it and just, or simple, let me say simple about it. It's, there's a 440, the tension is a slight dis-ease, whereas 432 Hertz is ease, right? So it's a choice that we make, right? Do we want to be dis-eased, or do we want to be in a state of ease? And I
Ooh.
think, right, we're so like, oh, we have to make this decision. You were talking about decisions. I'm like, oh. And I think also integrity with yourself is kind of knowing, okay, we say one thing, we say we want ease, we say we want this, but I think we've been naturally trained in a state of dis-ease. So I think that that's the undoing. And this year I had this word that came to me. I said, what is the word for me this year? And the word for me was the unfolding, the great unfolding. And I think if we kind of allow ourselves to just simply listen and sit in what is actually happening and what is this resonance, like all the different resonance. We have no choice really. It's so much going on. But I love that the 432 Hertz is like this guide. It's a guide to ease. It's a guide to peace. It's a guide of a frequency level that we can just, and what you were talking about with the Schumann level of like, what is that place of peace and ease, and the earth is like, it's going through a change. So now that's debatable what exactly is happening with the earth. A lot of people have a different, right, different theories on what is happening, but they know something's happening. But when astronauts go into space, which is, I mean, I was just I have a machine, I have a resonant light machine, resonant light technology, and it has the Schumann resonance that's been going this entire time while we're having this conversation. This resonance is something they put in the space station. They put it in, when astronauts go out to space, they actually give it to them for this, the Schumann resonance, which is a 7.83, I believe, hertz. And they have it constantly going so that they feel, because you can't have people going crazy out in space, right? And I think there's a madness that comes with not being connected to the earth, not being connected to one another, not being connected to what this frequency is. And if you say that we need to be connected with each other, right? Maybe it's also that 7.83 hertz that we automatically attune ourselves to, in that heart frequency, if we're around the right people who are finding ease. And that's why we attracted to shaman. We are attracted to empaths, to people who calm us down and in times of stress. And I find that's part of my purpose. That's part of your purpose, is just to resonate at that level of peace and understanding. And so thank you for sharing with us your 432 Hertz, and for taking the great pains in a society that would have us be dis-eased, and you place us in your music, in your realm, in a place of ease. And at my Apocalypse Cafe, my show, I played it and everyone was resonating in it. It was great. And that's part of, I want to continue to share your music and whatever, and create music with you that resonates in a place of ease, because even though I know my very flashy title of Apocalypse Cafe, it would seem it's at a place of disease, but essentially it's about embracing whatever is happening in what we believe to be this apocalypse, or whatever we believe to be Armageddon. It's about laughter. And I love that you talked about comedians earlier too. And so I think artists, like you said, are coming together to be in this place of peace. So is there anything, like, you are releasing something on October 31st. Would you like to talk about that a little more?
I just want people to press repeat on it. I have this idea for a video, or these visuals. There's 3 sets of visuals that I have in mind, and one of them includes you. So I'm going to show you something after this, just so that we have no technical difficulties. And yeah, that you'll be part of one of the 2. But I just want people to listen and press repeat if it vibes with you. Either way, whether you like it or not, share it with someone just to give them a chance not to like it. I'm not asking you to like me, but I just want you to get this message of resolve of what happens when you find your space. It's not aggressive. It's not passive. It's not non-caring. There's a certain level of non-attachment that develops when you realize that things are. And they are because you are. And you are because you are. And it just grows this awareness of so much. So yeah, I just challenge everyone to go within themselves, the best they
Please talk
can.
more about that non-attachment, please, because I loved you. We had a conversation where you talked about this idea of non-attachment versus detachment versus attachment. And I thought it was brilliant and so enlightening. And I just loved it. Please tell us about that. Explain that.
So there's this common misunderstanding of what it is to be detached from the world and things, and that's the ultimate goal as taught by Buddhist and various different beliefs, is that to be attached to nothing, to have no desires, to understand this clarity of the all and just what is. And it's the word detachment, and it relates to me in relationships, again, to everything. If I want to talk about an example from when I was younger, I was being taken to a laundromat to pick up some clothes. We were sitting in a car. I was about 10 feet away from the door to walk into the laundromat and take this $100 bill to remit payment and get the clothes back. So I get out of the car with the bill in my hand, and it flies out of my hand down this corridor of wind. And I look at it go. I realize that I wasn't inspired to chase it. And I had no value or attachment. I was non-attached because I never knew enough to purposely detach. And so that's what I'm talking about. A lot of people are making the effort. And when you make the effort, that's called detachment. And so you're putting just as much effort to be away from it as you would probably put in to be a part of it. So you're not gaining any more of your self or awareness. There's still an energy expanded. Through awareness of what is, there's a natural non-attachment. And I realize that, again, this goes into often being misassociated with not caring about something or not taking on changes to relationships or tough situations or disadvantages the same way, because it just is. I'm not
Yeah,
attached to the joy or the pain. I'm not attached to the up or the down. It just is. And I understand this, and and I'm okay with you not just let go of the attacks on this disconnection from detachment to
yeah.
non-attachment. There is an awareness differentiation that makes those two so different. So I
I
hope
love
I
that.
got it. If it was clear, I hope it was clear.
Yeah, no, that I think that was brilliant. I mean, I just love that idea because we can't live in a world where we're not attached to something, but the idea of approaching it from a place of I'm
Spirit.
not in a place to make an attachment or a detachment is a place as well. It's a neutrality. And I think that neutrality has a place in it. It's just, it's like I have not yet made the decision whether I want to attach to it. Because in order, like you said, in order to in order to detach, that would mean you were attached.
So if I had to
And
jump out on a limb and say what I will, if I were to think of what I would attach myself to, I'll throw out three things that I've never said before, but come up in this moment of this exchange. I
Mhm.
would attach myself to my hobby. I would attach myself to my highest joy. And I would attach myself to the advancement of my spiritual exploration. And that's pretty much the base. Everything else, I doesn't even, nothing else comes in after those three. Like I
It's not
remember
attached.
I remember when I was being posed the question that everyone gets: what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? I want to be a fireman. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be just like my daddy, just like my mama. Whatever you say, there are these things that come out. I want to be a marine biologist. Why is that? Because it's got more syllables than all the other answers. There's so many things that pop up. And my answer was, uh, I want to do what I want, when I want, how I want. And that was it. That's all my answer ever was. There was no ceiling that once I reached this peak, what's next? There was nothing to look forward to advancing through. It was going through every moment, just saying, I want to do what I want, when I want, how I want. And so that mantra, that awareness has been the truest guiding light of this path that I've been on, is that no one will ever say Cristiano didn't do it his way.
Oh yeah, no, that cannot be, there can be no cognitive dissonance about that.
Press repeat. So yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, this has been great. I mean, so if there was anything you wanted to leave with about press repeat and about your journey, because it's obviously, it's just unfolding. It's just going to be this continual amazing journey. And I think there's so much to celebrate what you're connecting with right now. And I'm so happy to just witness it and be a part of it. And to help that, you know, get out into the world. So what would you say is your next, after October 31st in this release? Do you want to give us a little sneak peek of what you're up to after that? Or are you going to let that be the mystery?
I can give you the date. The date for the next release is December 21st. And it'll either be the 18th or the 21st to line up numerically with either the 9 or the 3. There is some magic in all of that. And just to backtrack and have some fun with numbers, 7.83, 7 plus 8 is 15, 15 plus 3. I mean, 7 plus 8 is 15, 15 plus 3 is 18, 8 plus 1 is 9, 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 9. And so if I release it on the 18th, that's 9. If I release it on the 21st, that's 3. So just playing with these magical numbers of 3, 6, 9 that are anomalies in so many ways. But yeah, it'll be released on one of those days. However, for press repeat, I have consistently pushed the bar with every resource that I have accessible to me. And so I just continue to look forward to take what is around and available and maximize the creative output and exploration of what's possible with what I have and with who I have with me, around me, in any capacity, for me, against me. Because even if people are pushing you away or against you, that is an energy or force. And if you know how 𝗙𝗁 works, you take that and you displace it. You don't have to be repelled by it. You just kind of bounce off of it. So yeah, I'm enjoying these. And so press repeat is just another epic feat coming after OK, which I think was a soft, like, how y'all doing? And before that, there was a song called Up to You, which I think, as it talks about depression and stress and the battle within, it was well timed for this moment of what people need to hear. And as recent as yesterday, within the past 24 hours, I spoke with someone that told me that that song and that message was needed as they are starting a bout of depression. And they recently heard it and realized that they'll make it through because it's a battle with themselves. And I define depression as when you reach a limit of a reality that you no longer want to accept, but you don't see the way out of. And so depression is just taking on whatever it may be in whatever capacity, no matter how big or small. You're taking on the weight of that realization, or the weight of that that external force, whether you know it or not. If you know what it is, that's better, because then you'll probably break out more, knowing that you just need to fight it or come to it. Sometimes people make compromises with it. But depression is when you reach a point where there's a reality that you're no longer willing to accept, and you just got to break out of it. So what do? Do you learn to live with it, or do you become something more where that is no longer a part of your awareness or reality? A lot of people are depressed, they associate it with like substance abuses and so forth. And that, okay, once you let go of that, usually you are no longer the person that was there. And those people that tell you, like, I don't even remember how I was possibly addicted to that or did those behaviors, because they broke through. So depression is a breakout bout that is you versus you, at its core. However, external things, frequencies, sounds, songs, words, emotions, pills, those things affect your fight with yourself. So try and evil the battle out, and you're gonna win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's I've battled anxiety, depression since the age of 2. And so a lot of people don't think that happens to people, but you know, if you have a brain trauma or something like that, and you have to fight it, you have to work towards it, but you don't even, when you're a child, you don't know,
You don't
especially when
even
your
know.
parents have it. It's just a, oh God, dear Lord. But so,
Yeah.
but you know, but that I knew from a young age I wanted to be a singer because I think instinctually I knew that was healing me. And so singing, that's one of the things that I love the most, is teaching non-singers how to sing better, because I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that the more beautiful your resonance becomes as a speaker, even with your voice, that suddenly beauty comes out of you and you resonate at that
Mhm.
level. And it comes from your entire body, your entire instrument, your entire life. It's something that you can connect to in that resonance. And so I call myself the vibe coach, because I don't see it as just singing anymore. I see it as like you're connecting with the vibration within yourself, and you're allowing it to be. You're allowing your resonance to connect. You're allowing your voice to connect, and you connect with your speaking voice to your singing voice. Because when you sing, there is no higher vibration of what you had to say, whether it's anger, whether it's sadness. You know, you think about it. I feel amazing after I sing some of the saddest songs, because I cry at such a high frequency, and I allow that vibration to exist, and I send it out and I say, okay, and it is not with me. When I am done, it is no longer with me. And I allow that resonance to go through another human being, and I allow them to accept with how they feel, their sadness, and they feel freed. They feel freed of that resonance. It passed through, it is gone. And I can only say that when I had a week-long panic attack, I've never experienced anything like that in my life. All I can tell you is that it felt like I was being buried alive. But after I experienced that, and I was hospitalized, and it was also due to the fact that I had very little salt in my body, um, because of
Mm.
the OCD that I had acquired. Um, After that moment, I came back, and something just clicked in my brain. And there was a point at which I had a panic attack that I resonated at such a high level. I literally screamed because I knew it was going to help me, and this was part of it. And so that resonance helps you to connect and to release. And so, but the mind, that resonance, it finally clicked. It said, I release it. I release you. I no longer need you. I no longer need that panic. I
Mm.
no longer, whatever my body is feeling, I will listen to my body, and I will do whatever is necessary. I trust myself to do whatever is necessary to release it. And so that it just clicked suddenly. So whatever trauma, like you said, it was good because it was allowing me to release years of panic that had been trapped inside me. And so the music is the healing, and the shaman, you, myself, like whatever, at whatever levels or frequencies that we're at, we're meant to connect with people and help release each other, from this. So thank you for everything you're doing, um, and to connect this way. And where can we find more of this delicious energy that you are going to expound upon us? Where can we find you?
So what's
Where,
cool is that there's one location you need to check, and it's ChristianoCan.com. From there,
okay.
you can find all of the streams, the podcast, the songs, and external social links. They're all available from there. But it's ChristianoCan.com, Cristiano Can. So yeah, there's you can message me, share a note of consideration, post a comment on the videos. Let's connect and exchange and elevate who and what we are together.
Amen. Thank you.